Before I actually saw an actual soccer game, I got connected to the jersey. But there's a French saying, you always come back to your first love. On revient toujours à ses premiers amours. And the Grasshoppers were my first love. The name and the jersey spoke to me. My name is Tobias Meyer, and these are my GRAILS. In a very broad sense, football or soccer is culture. I actually started collecting jerseys roughly 20 years ago. I think it was kind of a need to reconnect with the memories of my childhood, but also a little bit with the sport at the time, which I felt was a little bit more pure, a little bit more honest. You know, once you start collecting, I mean, there's no end to it. Jerseys also say something about the sport, how it has been played, how it has been lived at a particular time, right? I mean, you see, for example, the jerseys from Cosmos, of Franz Beckenbauer. I mean, you look at the jersey and it actually already looks glamorous, and it was a glamorous league at the time. But the jersey really reflects kind of that culture that was lived at the time in the NASL. At the jersey of Platini with Juventus in the mid-80s, what a beauty. I mean, these small black and white zebra stripes, and nothing else, right? And you have maybe the two golden stars. It's almost like in architecture, right? Less is more sometimes. And this is also it reflects kind of the simplicity but also elegance of the game that Juventus played in the mid-80s. When you know both things, right? You know the jersey and you know what happened at the time, it helps you kind of connect these two things and to make it accessible to you know, for example, in my case, to my sons. So it's really a great delve into soccer history also. I remember getting my very first shirt, which was the one I'm wearing here. That's, you know, that's the one shirt that I would basically save from the burning house. It was a Christmas present. I still remember, you know, the excitement, the adrenaline of opening that present. My parents were not into soccer at all. They were more like the Boy and Girl Scouts type, so I didn't have any kind of, you know, family connections to soccer. One of our neighbors brought in a shirt, or was wearing a shirt of the Grasshoppers. Grasshoppers was the club in Switzerland in the early 80s. I was fascinated by the blue and white half shirt. It was the colors of Zurich. And by the name, Grasshoppers, I mean, what a cool name for a soccer club that is. And the Grasshoppers were my first love, really, in a sense, because they were the subject of all my projections of, you know, what is good in the world when I was a younger boy. At the time, I didn't even have regular access to TV, so I would run home from school on Mondays to ask my dad or my mother to read in the newspaper, read to me how Grasshoppers played. That's how I basically learned about, you know, about the sport. A lot of it then happens in your head. It's imagination, right? I didn't see my first soccer game until the 1984 Euro when France won. It was only hearsay to me and newspapers, and so then you have these heroes in your imagination, really, right? For the 1986 World Cup onwards, I was also then, you know, we were having a TV, and I was, you know, seeing the games, and then you are a little bit closer to what is actually happening on the pitch. But it takes a little bit away also of the magic of, you know, what is happening in the mind of a young boy, in a sense. Of course, these jerseys are really where also my heart is, in a sense. I mean, if I look at this jersey, I see this boy under the Christmas tree opening that present. I see this young boy going to that old stadium for the first time and enjoying the game, and the roughness also that in the audience, and the feeling of triumph. And I see this young boy running home from school, wondering, you know, waiting for the newspapers to see whether or not the Grasshoppers won or lost on the weekend. At the end of the day, your life is a row of experiences and memories that you have. And there are certain things that I completely had forgotten, and because of my because of my hobby of collecting jerseys, forced me to go back to certain events, like where was I when that game happened? I said, ah yes, exactly. I was at that particular place with these particular people. I think it was a very, in a sense, pure joy to get to know more about the sport and the world through the sport of football or soccer, as they say.